Well, at Trinity, when Kennedy was first elected president, there was a great deal of excitement and happiness and rejoicing. It was the first time, really, that we had had a Catholic president. And as most of the population then was Catholic, there was tremendous hope that he was going to be a wonderful president. My own thoughts when Kennedy was elected were somewhat like the students, but a little more adult, perhaps. I thought, from listening to him in the Senate, I really thought that he had some wonderful ideals and principles that we needed to have at that time in the history of our country. So I, too, was full of expectation. I was full of sort of exultation that here we have this young, energetic, witty president. And I was with him and thinking, oh, come on now, JFK, let's go. With other college presidents, when we went to the White House, we were called not really just to meet President Kennedy, but he wanted to urge us to accept more international students. And that was really the gist of that whole meeting. But it was fun to be there, and you know, again, I was struck, as I had been before when Kennedy spoke at Trinity, with the kind of aura that surrounded him. There was something about him that you got excited to be in his presence and to hear what he had to say. And you always felt uplifted after you had been in his presence. And I still remember both times that he spoke here. I was always struck by the effect that his personal appearance had on others. Our student body, not so much at commencement, but at another time when he spoke in O'Connor Auditorium, this whole student body just sort of came alive and cheered and clapped, and they couldn't stop clapping just because of his presence. When Robert Kennedy spoke here at Trinity in 1963, the whole college was excited. It was really for commencement, and he was the commencement speaker. And of course, we all were hoping that it was going to be a beautiful, bright, sunny day when we could have as many people as wanted to be there. And we were swarmed, but unfortunately, it was pouring. And so we had to have the commencement down in Notre Dame underneath the chapel. So there were a lot of people all gathered outside the windows of that auditorium. And I remember when Molly Sweeney was given her degree, the whole class turned to the right and looked up at the window. And Bobby Kennedy leaned over to me and said, "Now, what's that all about?" I said, "Oh, up at that window is Molly Sweeney's fiance, George, and they all wanted him to be sure and see Molly." So when Bobby got up to speak, he said, "Oh, Your Excellency, Archbishop O'Boyle, Sister Margaret, etc., etc., and George." And it brought the whole audience into laughter. It was a wonderful occasion. The terrible news of JFK's assassination reached me right after lunch. When I went up to my room, the phone rang, and it was my secretary, and she said, "Sister, the president has been shot." I just could not believe it. 2 minutes later, practically, Walter Cronkite came out with the news that the president had died. It happened to be the day that there was going to be a huge SGT where people from all over the city were being invited. Of course, we canceled that. And that was the last time we ever had what had been annual SGT. We gathered at the front door that night as night was falling. Each of us had a lighted candle. We marched from the front door over to Notre Dame Chapel, and there we all prayed for the president, who was now gone, for his family, and of course for our country. There was trepidation, there was fear, kind of what's going to happen with him gone. And we had never experienced in our lifetime the assassination of a president. So again, that fear was almost palpable, and terrible sorrow and grief. The enduring legacy of President Kennedy, I think, well, first of all, and this is probably personal, I have often wondered to myself what he would have accomplished had he not died. He did leave us the drafting for a civil rights bill that Johnson got through and passed. Kennedy also inaugurated the Peace Corps program, which has lasted even down, I think, to this day. I think the memory, even though there's been a lot of debunking as far as his personal life has been concerned, I think his legacy of excitement and hope and idealism for our country is still there in many ways, if someone could only take and run with it.